everybody. Hopefully you've got this presentation on your screen. I just want to confirm, do you see the Curriculum Training Computer Literacy B? Okay. So to confirm, we all have the screen. You can see it. It's the basic PowerPoint.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So one of the things that's unique about this class is that it is entirely scoped around Google and Google's suite of software. So to aid in your training, and I know you will all actually get a Google Classroom training later, there is a test class if you scroll to the top of the chat window that has a very short student login code that you can try and use if you want to try and do this simultaneously. I'll switch back and forth every now and again in case there's a specific question about how Google Classroom works, especially with this content, since it's sort of hand in hand. And that classroom will stay up for as long as you guys want to play around with it. There are some documents in there, like a master key to all of the assignments, and just some other basic outlines and scope stuff. So that's there for you. That'll stay open. I do recommend playing around with it because it's a very fun introduction to how everything works. So if you're all ready, I'm happy to jump forward. Any questions at the moment?
No.
All righty, well, let's go on then. So basically, what we're going to be doing today, we're going over the content, basic structures, assessments and grading, and some of the best practices. Now, I will say that this was not written by myself. I only had the privilege to provide feedback and some editing on it. So if there are some more technical questions, we can always push that forward to the actual developer. But I'm pretty sure between all of us, we can answer the basics of it because this is a pretty fun class when you get a chance to play around with it. Alrighty. So basically our content. So if you have the little cheat sheet, the curriculum training content exploration that was hopefully emailed to you, that's also as one of the documents in the Google Classroom if you want to go and grab that. This just gives you the basic overview of everything per unit. It goes over each of the basics, some of the products you can look for, and then what the main graded criteria are. So for example, in Unit 1, there was a project, there's a project for a business letter, a resume, and then a very quick online assessment. Now, all the online assessments are actually contained in OA, so those are still separated out. Everything else is completely contained in Google Classroom. So just leave that there for a second. Do you all have that little cheat sheet with you? Do you need a second to grab it or print it out?
We're good.
Awesome. All right. So let's just keep jumping forward then. Woo! Goodness gracious. Sorry. Clicked on the tab. All right. So which unit covers Google Sheets? How many points are those worth? And how many of those points are in the online assessment? So this is a scavenger hunt for you all to go through. If you would like to just quickly look in that cheat sheet, it's another way we can find out, and for you to shout some answers at us to get a chance to win those lovely Starbucks cards, right? Card.
Just one.
Sorry, just one card. And again, if you want to type it in the chat window or if you want to just be the first person to shout it out.
Okay, we're happy.
So which unit covers Google Sheets? How many points are the projects worth? How many points is the online assessment worth? I'll avoid the Jeopardy music because it will probably sound horrible. Yeah, that's the hope, though. Subconsciously, you'll hear it in the back of your mind. Do, do, do.
We didn't have a link in our just saying the same thing. That was happening.
Oh, no. Alrighty, well, they don't have the link in their invite. that has the cheat sheet in it.
Oh, copy it into the chat box.
Okie dokie. Wait.
But if I was a guessing man, I'd say Google Sheets is Unit 7 or Unit 2, however you want to talk it. The projects should be worth a total of 70 points, and then the test worth 30. Or flip that. Flip that.
Flip that.
We're gonna stab in the dark and hopefully get it.
Yeah.
I want to copy the link and it's not letting me copy. Sorry, guys. I'm just
That's
gonna.
You can hit all of the plus button and it'll zoom in.
There you go. That should directly link you guys to it in the form there. And if you get a chance to go to the course that we built up here, it's also in here.
Google Docs is Unit 1. Google Sheets, Sheets is Unit 3. They did slides after Docs.
Ding, ding, ding. Unit 3. We got it. All right.
Who is that?
That was Joseph.
It was.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. And then now we see our point values.
I was right. 70 points for projects, 30 points for the test.
Bingo. I know. I wanted you to confirm. Yeah. Awesome.
Mocha lattes for everybody.
All right.
With lactose-free goat milk.
All right. Well, you know, everyone's got to make sure they meet their dietary needs. Okay. So now that you've got that little cheat sheet, on some more of those things, if you want to shout them out, if we want to try a different way, we can. I do, again, if you have the opportunity, are you all huddled around one laptop projecting on a
We're
screen?
in spots, but you're on a smart board, so we're good.
Okay, awesome. All righty, so here we got another one for you to try out. So in activity, which of the two units seem the most connected? This is a way for you guys to kind of look at the content now that you've seen Google Sheets is in 3, Google Forms and Sheets Continued are in 4, Google Docs and the Classroom is in Unit 1. How would you think they are the most connected? Which ones seem the most connected? Which unit seems the thickest, as though it might be the most time-consuming? And which lessons specifically focus on sharing and collaboration? So again, for shout-outs.
Who's are most connected?
Oh, that was Lee Doty.
Reinforcing the most connected?
Yes, yes. I mean, it sort of cheats by saying Google Sheets and Google Sheets twice. So, I mean, kind of works in there. But that is fantastic. That was Nikki, right?
No, that was Lee Doty.
Oh,
Who was it?
who was it again?
Lee, IS teacher in Louisiana.
Lee, awesome. And we got Nikki in the chat box too. That's why I saw it. Alrighty. So which one would you think might be the thickest unit then? Let's go to that question. Or we could also maybe replace it with the densest.
Unit 5?
What do we think?
Really cool.
Let's do it as a survey style.
She says
The most who agree on a single unit.
That's a portfolio.
Is lesson 5 the thickest?
Unit 5 has a lot of interesting depth to it because it explores a bunch of the other functionality of Google. Each lesson is pretty contained, so it's probably safe to say it's densest. Although I will give a fair warning as I've gone through these lessons, the units in 3 and 4 will probably be the harder ones for students since they have to do with Google Slides and Google Sheets and with Google Forms. So those are the data and the math kind of heavier sides. Unit 5 has a lot of the video and multimedia components built in, which can be a ton of fun. But in terms of content, as a fair warning, but I will totally go with you guys on Unit 5. So was that what you said at first?
server query language.
Oh,
That's a programming class.
They do HTML and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Next question.
HTML and JavaScript, SQL.
Do we have a question?
No, I think just general excitement at students learning how to code a little bit.
Oh, cool. All right. I like that. Okay, so let's just jump forward. The collaboration one, I'm just going to cheat for you all and say it's throughout the entire thing. The advantage of Google as a suite of software is that it is highly collaborative. Everything allows you to edit and interact sort of simultaneously. The Google Classroom feature allows that editing and collaboration to be driven through instruction or by an instructor, depending on the scope of control that you will have in your classrooms. So any questions about that yet?
So you then are starting out new.
Okay.
We okay?
Yep.
Awesome.
Can't hear it. I mean,
And that's what I'm saying, get here.
Okay, so just as another option, I wanted to quickly tab over really quickly to show you again what the classroom structure will look like. So it may be organized slightly differently for each of you individually, but by and large, Google Classroom is essentially a giant stream of information. At the top, you'll have the course title. Again, this is a training class. Your name as the instructor will be up here. So students are supposed to be able to match both things that way. When I used to use this in a classroom, I would actually label things, period 1, Mr. Lancaster, whatever the class content. I would still have students get confused. So just every now and again, you want to double check with them to make sure that they're labeling things in. Again, all the structure of this will follow an assignment feature. If you look, there's a little checkbox in the corner of everything as it's designed up. And there is an option here to show us done and not done for assignments. Now, I've only loaded Unit 1 into this test class for y'all because it's the one that goes over the most about the basic structure of Google and Google Classroom. And these assignments are really straightforward. If you yourself feel a little uncomfortable with how Google works, again, you could just run through these probably in the course of maybe 2 or 3 hours and just kind of have a lot of fun exploring. If you want to take the whole class, which would be kind of cool, you could become a really good Google expert with the students as you go along. So do you have any questions about this at the moment? Anything popping out that looks weird or?
Well,
So will the actual saw accompany this?
That's
Is
not-
this the saw?
We have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a saw that accompanies this?
I'm sorry?
Is there a student activity workbook that accompanies this?
No, it is entirely on the classroom.
Does that mean the tests is contained on the classroom as well?
The tests are still in OA, and each unit has one test at the end of it. There are self-testing quizzes through there, and that's something we'll get to in a little bit. Those are just for students to review with, and those use Google Forms. Those are part of the assignments.
I wonder how long it would take to do this.
So if you'd like to see, like if we go down to the bottom, Unit 5 right here, there is an activity 1.53, Unit 1 self-quiz. It opens up pretty quickly. Students input their own email address. Oh, sorry. Gotta give time for lag, sorry. So students have the ability to put in their email address. They can test out answer choices, and then they submit it. It generates a response for them. And if they see they did horribly, they can go back and try and redo it. And some of these questions are repurposed in their online assessment at the end of the unit. Each unit ends with one of these self-quizzes as a chance for them to review and study. And the projects themselves contain other things, but those are going to be in some later slides.
do you have our Google Star set up yet? Where
Any other questions there? Good question.
Do we have Google stuff set up here yet?
That is the thing that we're trying to work on. The classrooms are being built for each teacher. Is that right? Okay, so they're being built for each teacher, and then I believe you will then be given teacher rights. So you can actually have multiple teachers in one classroom, and the EDI or whichever tech affiliate we're in built the class will be at the top up here with you under the class name, and then your name will appear, and you'll have all the same kind of editing rights and ability to look through things. The real nitty gritty of that, I'm told to be walked through on a separate Google Classroom training. But again, in the inceptionness that is this class about Google and a class about Google, I thought not showing you would do you a disservice.
Do you know if we have a tentative date for completion of those Google Classrooms?
I do not. They don't take a ton of time, but you guys go live on Monday? So Monday is my hope. This class is live for you to play with and get familiar if you want to get a head start. And I will leave this open through the course of the year. You can just join in by entering that code at the top of the chat. The code is case sensitive as a warning. Trying to see. I wrote it down a few times. If you're ever lost for the code, like say to add your students, you actually would go to this students button here, and it generates a code up at the top. Ours is lowercase v, the number 5, DBKZ.
Okay, we have a question about why this is computer literacy B, but the units are still 1 through 5.
I also asked that question, and because this is, I guess, different, or so different from Lit A, that it's just sort of being treated like its own class, even though it's sort of paired together. I mean, the flip side is we could change all of that very quickly if we need to change it, since this is live programming.
Do we have Lit A available? We're a brand new school, so we are unsure.
We have a question in Louisiana.
Okay, so I think the Lit A is a combination of, it varies state to state, and I think we're updating that one at the moment. So, oh, and the textbook is out of print.
Can you hear us in the?
Yeah.
Okay. We were just wondering if all of the assignments would show up all at once, or do they have to like complete the first lesson to see the second lesson?
So one of the unfortunate or unfortunate, however you want to slice it up, features of Google is that it is a full stream. So like old blogging in the early 2000s days, or MySpace to date ourselves a little bit, everything is kind of in that vomited stream of consciousness. The way that we've gone through to organize it is that we upload the class backwards, so that the first thing they see as they scroll down is Unit 1, Lesson 1. And as they keep scrolling down, they'll keep seeing the individual units as they go through. And if you notice here on the side under the topics, there are actually ways that kids can jump to a topic. So if, for example, they've completed Unit 1, they need to go to Unit 2, they would have clicked on it. Or in our cases, we click on Unit 1, and everything under that topic category is now only displayed for them. And then each lesson is contained in there. And there's a little bit more of that we'll go into in the slides as we continue through the PowerPoint.
I have another question. This is Lee in Louisiana. If you have multiple teachers on the same classroom and one teacher edits something, does it apply to all of the classes and all the teachers?
It will apply to that classroom only. You guys will not have master rights to the main documents. You'll have rights to the documents saved in this classroom form. That's a neat feature about Google Class. So we can make templates that then get pushed to you in these classes, and the students themselves will only get templates pushed in. If you guys look at Activity 1.1, Navigate Google Classroom lesson, to the side, sort of in grayed text, you should see right here, it says each student will get a copy. One of the features of Google Classroom is that any document or assignment we put in there, and we set to this feature, when the student clicks on it, it will generate and name the assignment for them so that they can later go through to turn that in. And then any edits they make are on their own copy, so they can't actually screw it up. Zoom in, sure. Is that more zoomed?
Yes.
Awesome. So again, right here.
Okay, so going back, will they be able to complete units out of order?
Theoretically, they could. Although the way this is structured, the units do build a little bit on the previous unit. So Unit 5 talks a lot about being able to do a lot of the video drop and app uses that are all talked about in Unit 1. So if the student doesn't have a familiarity with that, they'd have to go into Unit 1 and do it. But they could hopscotch around if they so choose to make it harder for themselves.
Okay. Just making sure we were all on the same page.
Of course. Alrighty, any other questions about that? Now, as a flip side thing, I know you have Christina and Brenda to talk to you, but because this class is here, and if you all join it, and again, you can keep sharing that code and logging in through your Google accounts that you have, you can send me messages too, so that I can look through and see if there's a weird problem with the major text, and I can also then bug the developer if there's some sort of weird categorical problem, although I'm pretty sure we cleaned up all of the weird stuff. So everything should be straightforward, and the rest of it is just the Google operation. I used this for the better part of a year and a half when I was a classroom teacher in continuation high school. So I've got a lot of practical experience using this, making kids do things, and they do. They love to jump around, and they love to pretend that they don't know how to use it. But the advantage is Google has psychologists on their side figuring out how to think ahead of that problem. And so a lot of those things are kind of built into Google Classroom. And as you explore it, you'll get the feel for it and you'll kind of run into it. It's neat.
Speaking of students doing things, can you actually take a test at the end of each lesson instead of going through the each little, I guess, sub
Since the tests are still in OA, you guys will still be the gatekeepers of that. So if you notice right here, you have the done, not done option. So once it's populated with students, and we don't have any students in our training class just yet, but once we're populated with students, you can see if they haven't actually done an assignment because they have to push to turn in. And when they turn in, they actually turn in a copy of their assignments to you. In the instructions for all of them, it's recommending to you all to go in and look at it and to sort of see and give a content evaluation about if they've mastered some of the information. Also up here in the training docs, there is a master key, which this is from the developer to kind of help pace everything through. This will help you go through the outline of all of the instructions to see if they're doing things right. It even has an instruction about how to see things on the outline. I don't know if you can see, there's an outline over here. Zoom in a little bit. Whee! Not weeing enough for me, I'm sorry. Here's the outline so that if you literally want to jump to each individual lesson to see what they're supposed to be putting in, you can. All the answers are highlighted in yellow with sort of a little bit of feedback about what to expect students to say or do. So does that kind of help answer that question?
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right. So I may have also jumped ahead in some of our PowerPoints, but again, a PowerPoint talking about a thing that we could physically look at, I didn't want you guys to be bored to tears. So are we cool to jump back to our scheduled program?
Yes.
And by all means, jump in and ask more questions. I'm happy to tab back so we can keep exploring. All right, so let's look at the course structure. So this is our overline. So this was kind of would be like if we had a printed manual, what you would look at. But again, Google contains a lot of that for y'all in its structure, and that's, I think, the greatest part about it. So they will need a student login, which, as I understand, is being dealt with and will be given to everyone, fingers crossed, by Monday. Chromebooks and Chrome tablets or Chrome activated things. Basically, if it can reach the internet, it can run Google Classroom, and that is again Google's ability to do those kinds of synchronous things. And then the overall structure. So, any questions about that? Nope. All right. Easy enough. So there are some activities in this class that will involve them using video-based instructions. So they'll have to actually watch a video to summarize it. The videos are embedded in the classroom. They're in those lesson feeds. If not, there are YouTube URLs that link them. Most of the directions for the assignments actually are already linked to YouTube. So these should be vetted. If there is a problem with it being blocked because of whatever web blocking software you might have, the quick workaround is that you as the teacher could then download the video and just post it directly back onto the classroom. Hopefully that problem won't happen, but if not, I'm happy to walk you guys through that as they show up as problems. There is a lot of work in Google Sheets, which is Excel for those of us that were trained in Microsoft Word. Sheets has most of the same functionality, so that also means it does a lot of the same math. So for those math teachers or those who know the struggle of trying to teach students math, there is a little bit of that. The formulas are all walked through. There's a lot of very basic examples, and as a neat little trick, in each of the instructions when they need to use a formula, the actual formula is in whiteface type. So if the student really does need help, all they need to do is highlight the instruction and they can see the formula there. I think we mention it once in the instructions, and the rest of the time it's up to them to remember to do that. So it should help them a little bit. And again, the self-grading quizzes are all done through Google Forms, and so that'll sort of spit stuff out and tell them, hey, did you remember this basic vocab or not? Any questions about that one?
No.
We're good?
Nope.
Awesome. All right, thank you. So again, the self-grading quizzes, and this is kind of just a direction for probably where a lot of digital education is going to go. So if you guys have a chance to play around with the forms that are in here, make copies of them and see how they push out to Excel sheets. This does allow a lot more for self-grading and for formative assessment, which you may want to try on your own and just sort of let this class run its formative assessments to see how they go through. If you sort of see through the instructions, there are these cool little quizzes I showed you at the end of each unit. They are made in Google Forms. Those forms can then push to sheets, or those forms can push to slides. It's kind of the neat interconnectability with the way that the suite of software work. And so here you have the analogy, right? Docs, slides, sheets is like Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. So those are kind of our analogous things. The toolbars and the menus are in a lot of the same places. The iconography is very similar. The upshot is unlike Microsoft Office, that every Office update completely decides to reface, say how Microsoft Word looked from '97 when some of us might have learned it, or from the 2001, or from the ME one that we all like to forget about, or the 2003 one that we forget about. The Google stuff stays very similar, and their updates come with instructional videos when they happen. So that's kind of the upshot with it. Plus, it is a free suite of software, which is, you know, just to hammer the Google endorsement that we don't have. Google is great. So any questions about that?
No.
Nope.
Nope. Okay, this part's pretty straightforward, I think. And if you want me to go back and click around and show you stuff on the classroom, we can totally do that too. Whatever is your guys' poison, let me know. So we've already jumped through a lot of the agenda, the assessments and grading. It's going to have a little bit of rubric style grading for you to do as the instructor. There are some wonky bits with the grade book, since we're not necessarily using Google Classroom's grade book. That may happen down the road for other classes. But as it stands, you know, we've got the points as outlined on your little content exploration cheat sheet. And that's just some simple math to add up if the student is meeting the expectations to pass. So there are, of course, 2 35-point projects per basic unit, one 30-point 10-question online assessment in OA, and then the self-grading for review and all those kinds of things. Questions about like the online quizzes or anything like that? I'm going to show you a rubric in just a second. OA is online assessment and also apparently a very interesting show on Netflix. So I don't know if we knew we were synchronizing to take in content, but you know, we work with it. Good question, Nikki. And the OA logins and stuff will be at their sites? Okay.
Oh, if they're new.
If you guys are new or your school is new, that should be, where would they go for that? Fantastic question. Alltech? EDI, or whoever our tech provider for you is.
Like when you assign it?
And that is also, you could totally shoot an email to Christina or Brenda and they would pass that along to people to help, right? I'm getting nervous nodding, so yes. Of course it is. Right. The upshot is hopefully the students won't jump to the unit tests that quickly, so we can have them to you by Tuesday. though the tests were written up and put in on OA as far as they can.
I'm like where I want to be and trying to get these people to finish my house.
Question?
No, we're good.
Okay, awesome. Alrighty, so the basic rubrics are here. There is the whiteboard that tells you the sort of the open set for what the assessment itself is, or the project might be, and the total point score going on here. The rubrics are designed off of a 7-point, 35-point chart. So usually there's 5 basic criteria that you're looking for, a description of things that you need to find in there. So are there formulas present? Are the formulas correctly done? Is the formatting there? So all you would do to grade one of those assessments is follow the rubric as best you can. We're recommending that since this is a digital rubric, you could highlight it where they score on there. And then if they meet the threshold of 70 or 75% for passage, then you could be like, cool, this is pretty awesome. Or if they're scoring all 1s, then you might want to ask them to redo it. There are usually examples of most of the projects or links to examples. So it's a tall order sometimes to ask a student to make a business letter. There are 2 videos embedded in how to make a business letter in the lessons, and some credible websites they can go to on how to look at those kinds of things. Same is true of a resume or a spreadsheet. So it does sort of build up. So you do want to encourage your students not to try and skip through the lessons, because they are meant to sort of scaffold up into their ability to navigate Google and those kinds of online things. So any questions about that one there?
Nope.
Nope. Alrighty. So to give you guys a little bit of time to chat among yourselves, 2 basic ideas. So with your partners, your groups, your Legion of Doom tables, what will you do when a student is struggling with the online assessments, or what could you do? And what would you do with a student who's struggling to just complete a project? So any ideas you want to shout out, if you want to talk among yourselves, and then type out your answer, and we'll keep trying to record.
We can't mute our microphone, so you might hear all of our collaboration.
Hey, that's fun. It's a sea of voices.
For the project, ask them to see their progress.
You certainly could. You can also,
That's not an answer.
that would be a great answer. There's also a little function I'm going to show you all real quick as a side to that. So any Google document you have, at the top, here, let me zoom in real quickly. At the top, you'll see, woo, never mind, that's too zoomed. Right by accessibility, or perhaps right by people who are logged in, who may in fact be people like Anonymous Capybara or an Anonymous Iftra. You have last edits that were made here, and you can actually click on these things to see when a student was working on a project and what they might have done. In the past, when I had students write essays, this was how I could catch them in the realm of cheating, because suddenly they'd go from having one badly written introduction sentence to a completed essay in a single copy-paste stroke. So you can see that kind of stuff as a way to help progress things. And then again, embedded in the lessons are those videos to help them out. But that is a great way to do it. And this is just a fun little trick in Google. It's also a terrible way to be a little big brothery with ourselves, because you can see when people have actually last edited a document and turned it in, because Google likes to timestamp everything, which is only kind of creepy, because you just always know when you last did something or when a document was last looked at. And that will actually happen even in your Google folders. So if we go to like Literacy B here, you can click on any given document, and then if you see over here on the side, you can see our when it was last looked at, who last played with it, modified, who's the owner, and those all fun kinds of things. There's a lesson in Unit 1 that sort of explains this for the students as well, and it refers back to it in Unit 2. So they'll even know if you've looked at something when you're assessing it. Any other questions? Or I should say, any other feedbacks to the question?
Oh.
No?
No.
No. All right. Very cool. So we're kind of jumping through this. This is nice. So assessments and grading are pretty straightforward. And again, This part now is the best practices, is where we may go a little bit more off book, because there are lots of ways Google Classroom can go really, really well, and there are lots of ways it can crash and burn horribly, and you just sort of rock in the corner in a fetal position. We want to avoid the latter where at all possible, so a lot of this has been pre-built for y'all, and has been made pretty straightforward. I'm assuming we are going to maybe release this more as we roll out more of these classes. Sorry, Nikki, what are we expected to keep as a work sample? What do you mean by that?
For our student learners, we actually have to keep work samples for each one of the units that they do. They're asking what we're going to use as a snapshot for their quality of work or not.
Awesome. So there's actually a neat functionality in Google that'll let you do that. So when you guys go into your Google Drives, and I'll just flash you all my Google Drive stuff that I've got here. Under My Drive, if you have a classroom that's built, it will automatically create a folder for you called Classroom. You then click on said Classroom folder, find your class, and as students start filling in documents here, it will auto-save them all for you. So you can go through and pick any assignment you want that you think is the best representative example to print it out. It's, I mean, a little bit overwhelming, but the upshot is Google is saving it all for you. They're being forced to turn it in. And then when the class ends, we have the ability to later archive this. And as we archive it, this folder saves. So if for some reason you lost that printout that you made, you can go back in here and print it out again, because it is saving you as a copy form of it for those kinds of redundancies. So a student may accidentally delete it or intentionally delete a file, and it will try and save it here in the classroom once it's been turned in. So again, one of the features back here in, say, the actual classroom itself, so let me just zoom out real quick, is that when a student goes to a given lesson, so we'll do lesson 1, navigating the classroom, when they open it up, it's going to create a option up here for you to share. Theirs is going to have a little button right up at the top where my mouse is. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. At the top, there will be a new blue button in here called Turn In. And to show you in the lesson itself, that's what it'll look like. When that formula gets turned in, or that assignment gets turned in, that's when that redundant copy gets made in the actual folder in your Google Drive.
And will this put their name on it?
Yes. The coolest part about it is because your classroom has been built with, let me show you again, each student gets a copy. Anytime they click on that link, it creates or opens their unique copy that names it based off of the naming conventions in their email account or their Google account. So since the Google accounts are going to be produced with the student's name in it or some iteration of their name, their email will certainly be there, or their full name will be there, depending on how Alltech or EDI set that up for y'all. But it'll be pretty easy to identify your students by that.
So we'll be able to go into the file that says resume, and it'll have every student's name and all the resumes that were created in that classroom.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
It's kind of cool. It's working like a data cache for us in a lot of ways. So again, in this folder, it'll populate. So yeah, business letter. We don't have anything in here, but it'll fill up with each student's name in just sort of the general area of here. Okay. And it's pretty cool that way. So does that kind of help answer the question?
Yes.
Awesome. Any more questions sort of around that? All right, cool. And again, please feel free to play around with this classroom for you guys' training stuff. It makes it a lot easier in a lot of ways. And since you won't be able to edit things right away, you can't make the same mistakes and accidentally delete the class, because you'll only be able to come in as students. And so if there's like some sort of weird hiccup that happens over the next couple of days as you're playing with this, you can just let me know, and I'll try and respond to you through the classroom about just quick fixes. So back to our lovely PowerPoint, where we've crossed off all kinds of things. The best practices, these are coming from our developer, so they are similar to a lot of things I've been saying, They may be a little bit different, just kind of things for what to do. And again, this is just an overview of what we've been talking about. You can check your student progress, again, by looking at how they're doing the material. Again, when was the last time they edited it? When was the last time they opened the folder? Did they ever actually open the folder and get the assignment created for them? When things are turned in, we are recommending that you generically give them a grade of 100 out of 100 so that it marks it as done. That has no actual point values because we are not utilizing Google's gradebook. That's kind of still in the beta phase for Google Classroom as it is. So it's just kind of keeping an inventory of when something is turned in. And it is quite useful that things are turned in. We do not have dates associated with this. And one of the cool parts down the road, if you're playing with Google Classroom, is you can assign a due date for a student. And then when it's not turned in by that date, it marks it as late. It sends emails to you that it's still late, and that student sees it marked as late, so they have to go back and do it. At the moment, the way this class is operating is students will see if something is either done or not done. And you'll see it as done or not done. And the 100 points there is just to kind of make that really, really clear cut. Did you turn it in? Yes. Did you not turn it in? No. We could someday change the point values to credit, no credit. Again, kind of help them remember that there are those test quizzes to help them go through and figure out some of the main vocabulary. Most of the vocab has been bolded. Again, one of the neat features in Google Docs and any Google form is that if you highlight a word and right-click on it, you have the option to define. So if there's actually vocabulary they don't know, it might define it. Complex phrases like jargon text or unit target fill hopefully are defined in the lessons. And when I went through them, they were all pretty well defined for the academic vocabulary. So that's definitely still there. And again, the self-quizzing will sort of tell you if they're ready for an exam or not. It should be really straightforward. The tests are very straightforward. If the student did the work, they'll know the answer pretty well. And again, it's the recommendation I made when I started editing this class, the recommendation that I pushed to some of my supervisors. If you are uncomfortable with Google, take the class with your students. As an adult learner, you can probably burn through this in a week because you have used Word. Well, I'm assuming by this point you've used Word software somewhere, or you have been out in the world of the interwebs. And that will make it really easy for you to jump through. And you don't necessarily have to create the assignments, but you can certainly read the crash course version of it. All right, so are there any other questions about that, about the practices or just things you might be worried about or need help with?
So everybody gets 100.
Well, I asked that of the developer too. So the actual pointed materials that they get points for are the 2 projects per unit and the 1 unit test for the 35, 35, and 30 points.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How do you actually, he was being facetious in the class. Like,
So how do we actually enroll the students? Do we, I mean, we're used to working with Apex and online programs.
This is going to shift things a little bit to them. They can be batch enrolled. I don't know if that is the plan for EDI or Alltech or whomever. And it may not go very well if they're auto-enrolling, just because I know that has a lot of bitten features in it, which is where, again, this class code is going to come in handy. So as long as you have a student go up and open Google Classroom, they can add the class. Now, now we're on this page. Actually, let's jump real quick over to like your Google Drive, okay? So at the top here, you've got, they call this the home button, the apps button. Where I used to go, we called this the waffle board because it looks like a waffle iron. Breakfasty and makes it sound delicious. Your students have this on their Google account when they've logged in. And so what they'll do is they'll literally come down here and they'll go to the apps that are available to them. Google Classroom should be an app for them. So they will literally just click on that button and it will bring them to the main Google Classroom page. Now, I only have the 1 test class for y'all in here, but if you look up here at the top, and I will zoom in because it's a little bit of a small widget, you have this plus sign button right here. So if you get to this step with your students, all you will need to do is have them click on that button, and join a class. They won't have the ability to create a class because they won't be teachers. So they can only join classes. So they click join a class, and then they input the class code, and then boom, everything else is synchronized. Google does the rest. So that is the fastest way to enroll.
We give them.
Question?
How do we get the class code?
So when you get your Google Classroom, because you will be automatically added, that has to happen by Alltech. So
Okay.
when you get added, if you go to your Google Classroom, you click on the Students button, your class code is right here.
And they will all be different because they're obviously individual.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then if for some reason you've got a bunch of strange people joining your class because something has gone awry, you can always actually ask them to reset the code or disable the code.
Okay.
So if at a certain point you need to lock the class out, you can disable it and they can't log in anymore, or you can't have new users added until you allow them to be added.
Okay.
Okay, so when they log in for the class, we need to make sure that they're logged in under their Google account, so that way it registers in the class, right?
That is true, yes. So students will need a little bit of a crash course about how to log into their own personal Chrome account, which if you go to the top of any Google Chrome page, gives you this option up here to log into your Google account. And you can manage multiple people on different Chrome accounts. If they are using Chromebooks, this is automatically done for them because Chrome doesn't let you operate under a different person's account. So it'll only instantly log them in, and this part will be done for them. If they're using something like iOS or another sort of third-party software, they will have to log into a Google Chrome web page, and then it handles the rest.
Okay, I got one more question. So, back in the old days, I don't know if Google still does it, but sometimes if you log in on two accounts on the same browser, sometimes it connects the two. Are there going to be any issues with that, especially with multiple computers or students using the same computers?
Yeah, so right now we've got a bunch of Chromebooks, but we have one login for students.
Oh my.
That's what he's getting at, right?
Okay, you will be getting individual logins for each student. They have to have individual logins for each student, and we will push that on our end to make sure that happens. Otherwise, this will explode. Not in the fiery, burny way, but in the not working. So we will really push for that to happen. Once that happens, you should be safe. So that should mitigate that problem. If, however, you only have, say, like 10 Chromebooks for your center and you have 20 students and they have to share on alternating days that they're there, the Chromebooks themselves should force people to log out and force people to log in. On more open computers, like if you have a desktop set up for students to use or like they're at a public library, they really have to be careful about how they log in, and that might just have to be a conversation with each student. Like, hey, remember to manage yourself, remember to log out on your accounts so that people can't do horrible things. When you are logging in or when they are logging in as students, they'll have the option to not stay logged in when they first log in the first time. You may want to encourage them to do that. And it just means they have to, when they log in every time versus the joy of having everything synchronized and saved.
I have a question.
Of course.
Which account username do they use? Is it the student track one?
They're gonna make an individual Google one.
Yeah, they're gonna get new ones, and so those will have either pathways something. Yeah, it's probably gonna be a pathways.edu.org or pathwaysedu.org. It's going to essentially be a new email account that is synchronized to Google, so it'll be one that we manage.
Okay.
I think that one thing for student track.
On student track, they already have one.
Their email?
Yeah, that's the email that's already there for the student track students, or for all the students that are on student track, when like the same username that they're logging into student track, it's going to be that at pathwaysedu.org. That's going to be their Google address.
That would be the most reasonable thing to happen.
Well, no. That's the whole grand vision is that they're going to have that one account.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
one account that they log into OA, that they log into the portal, that they log into registration, that they log into Google for these classrooms.
Okay, we're understanding.
Cool. And you know what? Some of that synchronicity is a little wonky because I know, like, if for example, for us, our email accounts are logged into all our Google stuff, but we still have them to log into, say, Outlook. because despite having the largest email client server, no one ever wants to use the largest email client server right away, because migrating from Outlook is a little bit tedious for larger institutions to do. So if a lot of universities still have this problem where they'll have access to some sort of cool Google network through the student's email, and at the same time they'll have an email address that is, .university .whatever, and you just have to log in twice. If they're on a chain login, so let's say they have their own dedicated Chromebook, or you guys check out their own dedicated Chromebook, they can chain login, so they only do it once. But again, that's a safety and a privacy concern that you probably want to ask yourselves site by site, student by student, how they're going to manage that. And that might be something they cover again in your Google Classroom training. I'm not 100% sure, but I did want to give you the early precursors to it and just how to use it in application. It's a little bit hard to do a training on a program that doesn't actually have content in it, and the advantage of this class is the content is the training that we need. So I'm still really pushing that they modify this a little bit for people's trainings. Any other questions?
You get them to keep them from doing that chain login, or limit their, the student's ability to do that? Because we only have like 6 Chromebooks per teacher and 40 students, and so
okay,
I don't think it's best practice to do that.
So since they're Chromebooks, they can only log in, or you will only let them log in on their own account. And when they get off that computer, they have to log out, and you just have to emphasize that they log out. Then it doesn't matter who's chaining what on that computer. It's just like if you have a desktop at home and you have 2 different login screens, one for yourself and like one for your kids. They can only log into their accounts, and all those preferences and those chains only get saved in their logins. So Chromebooks kind of help that problem a lot by having their own separate login happen. A desktop from like Microsoft or Dell or whomever you have desktops for, those will have a larger issue because they're more open sourced. The Google stuff is a lot more closed, at least in terms of how it ties to the account. Does that help answer that question a little bit?
Yep, thanks.
Of course. And again, this is totally a new frontier for a lot of folks and for a lot of schools and districts. And there are, of course, amusing hiccups that happen as we go through this process. So, any feedback you can give too will be really useful, because then we can push that feedback to Google, and Google will try and adapt and respond to it. They really do want this feature to be stronger for everybody. And so the more feedback you maintain and email in, the more we can manage it and the more we can make this a better experience.
Who do we send that feedback to? Is it EI or curriculum?
Haven't sent that. You can send it to us for now until we have a better communication line otherwise, because again, this is sort of like the bigger test class for a lot of this.
Would that be bias, I believe y'all are calling it a Happy Fox ticket, or don't look at me weird. Someone said that.
Or an email.
Or an email to like you.
I think the email part might be better. And again, for now, you can bug Brenda and Christina, who then can throw things at my head if you guys are bugging them too much. And then they can share my email with y'all, and I'll handle all these questions if you need it. And then we just keep pushing it, because the feedback is what makes this stuff better. And the streamlining of that process is happening.
Y'all get ready.
Oh, yeah.
One quick question. This will be my last one, I think. Are you displaying a Microsoft PowerPoint or a Google Slides to us?
This is actually a Google Slides presentation.
Okay, because you would realize the irony otherwise.
Yes, I would. And I would have been a little bit disgruntled about it. But yeah, no, this is the Google Slide. And if there is a weird issue, like you have to present in Google Slides, if you're ever doing a projection thing, I know sometimes smart boards don't like things. You can push out a Google Slide as a PowerPoint copy. For the moment, Google has a loose affiliation with Microsoft where you can download versions of things as PDFs, as Word documents, as Excel sheets, and as PowerPoints. The only issue is that those things don't necessarily save the same formatting procedures. So they may get a little goofy on formatting. But, that's a fun play around. Oh, your kids won't have to do that in this class at all. just as a forethought, but for any of us who may have to do presentations down the road, that will happen. Good, very good question. And pointing out of irony. Any other questions? The credit, no credit would be fantastic. I haven't played around with that setting in a while. It wasn't there when I was running my actual classrooms through it, but the upshot is that quick hot fixes like that do show up pretty quickly. And there's an interconnectivity feature we could look at and see if we can switch it over to credit, no credit, or mark as done, which was an option, but didn't have the same effect. Any other questions or comments? Thankfully, you can't throw tomatoes through the online meeting. That's useful.
I feel much less compelled to do that.
Yes. Definitely a lot better quality training.
All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Oh, we're good over here.
All right. Awesome. All right. So, Christina, Brenda, is there anything else to? I'm gonna turn it over to the specialist really quickly to.
Okay, so for our Starbucks gift card drawing, we have a winner, and that is Nikki from Idaho. Yay!
Yay!
Can you please type your email into the chat box? We can get that to you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thank you. You too.